Hey, good people, Tobela. I hope you guys are good, and welcome to episode 3 of the TSHEGO MORENA Podcast. I'm so excited to have you guys again. My name Nagalina Kinachofacho Morena, Kamarana Kirana Kibishama Kodimal Mafasi, Kimudi Mukanam. And we finally found a name for it. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, well, after millions of years, getting after weeks and days of, trying to find the perfect name, I thought to myself, wait a minute, why not just name it after myself? Well, why? Not maybe because I don't know. It reflects who I am, who I am as an individual, not a collective. The day I start inviting maybe guests, it won't be reflecting the opinions of those guests. But for now, since I'm still doing it solo, and I'm still, I can say whatever that I'm saying here. It's everything that I believe in. It's So why not just name it after myself? So yeah, I hope you guys have been good. I've been amazing. Would you believe me if I told you guys that few hours from now I was writing a test? Well, that's the life of a university student. When you're a student, you tend to have a lot on your roster. Your roster is crazy, and it's so versatile because it's like, how do you move from writing a test to now recording a podcast? Like, we didn't even get the time to prepare. Trust me. I've been doing this for 13 years. Public speaking, I've been doing it for 13 years now. It's like clockwork, But just like the greatest singers, guys, the greatest singers, they still go to vocal coaches, vocal sessions, lessons, so that they can keep improving. Why? Because the improvement never really stops. So me as I am right now, I'm also continuously still trying to improve, still trying to find balance, still trying to establish myself as a man in society. It's a whole lot of things going on, when you're still in your early 20s. But otherwise, I'm good, I'm amazing. Well, this week, the past week, nothing hectic was happening. It was just chilled. It was just normal as usual. I had a test, like I said, today. Today's Saturday. I think it's the 28th of March. So during that week, I cleared out my schedule so that I can start preparing for my test. Because, I don't even have to say it. You guys already know it. You have to perform at your level best in everything that you do. So, I had another invitation to this other event, from the National Press Club, but yeah, I just told her that unfortunately not now, not this week. So let's just postpone it. No, we didn't postpone. I cancelled, on my side. But yeah, otherwise, I'm looking forward to this week because it's Easter's coming. Everybody's going home. We're all gonna see our families. So that's pretty much what could be on my roster next week. Yabo. But otherwise, that's it about me. Let me stop chit-chatting and get to the business of the day. So, the topics of today, you guys, that I had set out that I wanted to speak about, they're a little bit, they're not hectic, man. Just, I don't know. But yeah, let's indulge. Let's get into it. So the first topic that I wanted to speak to you guys about is No. Let me phrase it as the second topic. Let's start with the first topic. The first topic that I wanted to speak to you guys is it's about groove culture. I get you by now. You probably know most that we are probably one of the highest consumers of alcohol, and we probably have the highest percentage of people who go out every single weekend. Especially people my age, my peers, I'm talking about the youth, people in their 20s. They probably cover the majority of that percentage, and then people 30s over to the 40s and the 50s, they cover the minority of that percentage of the people who go out every weekend very often. Okay, So, as you guys know, my peers have received heavy scrutiny from the older generation about the habit of going to groove. Abo. Now, listen, me personally, I'm not gonna lie. I don't have a problem with going out. You know, in fact, I believe that it's one of the things that someone should constantly do from time to time because you can't always be cramped up in your room. However, though, I personally advise responsible responsibility or being responsible when you go out. Don't just go out, for example, with your last cent, or with the money that you're supposed to buy groceries with. I don't advocate for that. Abo. I personally advocate for doing everything responsibly. Abo. Because hey man, it's hectic. Abo. The economy is not economy. It's trying its best, but we have to be honest. So we can't just be spending money recklessly on expensive alcohol, even though you don't have money. Abo. So now that from the older generations, my 1K, we've received heavy scrutiny about people of my youth saying, yeah, you guys love going out so much, and I just have a bit of a problem with that. No, in fact, not a bit. I have a huge problem with that because this older generation scrutinizes my peers and makes it look as if this thing started with us. Do you get my point? They make it seem as if, yeah, we are the first generation to be going out this heavy. They even labeled us the sad generation. But it's crazy to me because when I was doing my research, I found out that groove culture in South Africa, in the black community, actually goes way back, guys, as far back as the 1940s, 30s, 50s, especially, and it peaked around the times where apartheid was really at its peak. When the Group Areas Act was enacted, that's when it peaked. That's why, if you can observe carefully, most of the 19th century stars, be it musical stars, let's just say artists, so that to cover everybody from music, acting, and dance. All of them, most black iconic artists of that time, came from a city called Sophiatown. So I can remember the Group Areas Act, which was an act to say, okay, we no longer want black people and white people to be together. We want them separated. And we will place white people in these locations, and then we will place black people in these locations. And then in one of the locations, the government of that time placed the black people, was a place called Sophiatown. Okay? This place specifically, guys, I want to emphasize how much this place was a central hub for groove for black people at the time. So because black people were facing so much with apartheid, and it was just too hard on them. They needed an escape. They needed a coping mechanism, and obviously, what better mechanism is it than to groove it all out, or groove it away, or dance your problems away, or drink your problems away, like they say. And so groove culture began to solidify and peak right in those moments, because from that city we got iconic legends like your Miriam Makeba, we got Dolly, Rathebe, and so many more. Your Hugh Masekela, and guys, the list is so long, but I just forgot some of those names. Because that's where the people could feel human again from the harsh reality of the system that they faced during the day. That's where they could finally move expressively without another policeman looking at them and asking if they have their they have their pass or what, or their dompas, like they always say. That's where they could finally feel free. That's where they could unleash, what their soul was yearning to release. Do you get my point? And that's where now groove really, really began to solidify. And, black people were now beginning to say, yeah, no, and I think that's where they started getting the idea of pushing the movement of democracy through art. Abo? That's where they started getting it. So, what is my point with all of that? My point is that to the older community, or the older black community who are scrutinizing my peers, acting as if this thing did not start with them, it really confuses me. Because our grandparents used to go there whenever they'd want to check out the stress from when they faced their white bosses during the day. Do you get my point? And so, because of that, the culture solidified, and later, then it was then influenced by politics. People started thinking, hey, we could use this groove culture to actually liberate our people. How could we do that? By exporting our iconic legends. Hugh Masekela, Brahu Masekela, Miriam Makeba, Tate Kifa Semenya, Mamleta Mbulu. Like I said, the list is long. Dolly Rathebe. Because there was once a point in time, I don't remember where I got this, but there was once a point in time where black music was, the quality of black music was deliberately reduced. You guys, it was hectic back then. So there was a point in time where apparently the quality of black music was purposely reduced so that it does not appeal to the masses. Because if their music had high quality, it could then reach ears and liberate people somehow. That's apparently another reason why most iconic legends were exported or were sent into exile. Some obviously were sent into exile because they saw that, these people are pushing political propaganda to free black people using their music, so we don't want them in this country. But another reason was, for some artists, in order for them to make better music, they had to go out of the country so that they can find better music systems, better recording places, and the usual hotspot for most of these iconic legends was America. It was America because most of them stayed there for a very, 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 very long time. Very long time. So now, that's how people moved. That's how they lived. That's how they coped. And trust me, it makes sense at the time for them to cope using alcohol, music, and just groove party. Because honestly speaking, there was no other way they could. There was no other way they could really just take the stress out. I mean, remember, like I said, the Group Areas Act was so strict that people of our color were not allowed in certain places, and that included recreational areas. There was this podcast that I was watching. I was watching the podcast of King David's Studio, and there was this episode where they were interviewing Ubab Meji Kladwayo. I just forgot the timestamp, but Ubab Meji Kladwayo said that the restrictions were so big that black people were not even allowed in cinemas. Isn't that crazy? They were not allowed in cinemas. So do you see how they narrowed how much our people could use to recreate and just enjoy themselves after a long day of work or a long week of work? They narrowed it down so bad. They were not even allowed in movie theaters. They were not even allowed in movie cinemas. They had to create their own small informal theaters just so that they could give people art. They had to create their own little mini bars just so that they could hang out in the middle of the night. So it completely made sense why all of them went to groove, because somehow that wasn't restricted as much. I also don't know. I'm here to do my research. So now, sharp. Let's fast forward. We fast forward. Okay, fine. 1994, we get freedom, democracy. All of that is put into place. Now here lies the problem. Our grandparents and parents have gotten so used to this culture that it's actually hard for them to stop. Like really, it's actually hard for them to stop. And let's not forget DNA being passed down from generation to generation, epigenetics, like they say. So obviously, as you guys know, DNA covers almost the majority of all the life experiences you had. So meaning that if you're once an iconic groovist at the time, chances are even your child or your grandchild might just be that out of DNA, unless if you obviously train them properly and you restrict them from going into those places. So now, fast forward to today, it's 2026. We are the new youth now. We are the children of the parents that used to go out to those places, and parents and grandparents of who used to go out and go out to those places so that they can relax and find joy from the harsh apartheid system. So now that's what I have a problem with when it comes to the older community, with their little scrutiny of saying, yeah, Luna, Matuke, La Kruva, Ing. Because this thing didn't begin with us. It started with you guys. So if there are people to blame, if we're going to play the blame game, which I don't think we should play it, the people to blame, then they are you guys. You guys should have been leading by example. You guys should have made sure by the end of apartheid in 1994, you guys started becoming more stricter with groove culture. But no, you did not. You continued grooving. In fact, democracy even gave you so much more freedom that you felt limitless. I'm sorry. You felt limitless in what you could groove, in what you could do. So my point in all of this is saying that this thing didn't begin with us. It didn't begin with us. However, though, back then the purpose of it was good. I know it. I sound somehow, ne? It's giving oxymoron vibes, ne? Back then it was good because they had no other choice. It was justifiable. Let me put it like that. It was justifiable for them to groove every weekend and to do and to drink every weekend because they had no other way they could escape. That was the only coping mechanism. But then fast forward to today, we have freedom, we as the youth. But today, the purpose of groove is completely different to what it used to be. Today, the purpose of grooving is to just drown sorrow. It's not to liberate people, but to just drown sorrows and, just release the stress, because we as the youth, it's funny how a lot of older people think that we don't go through a lot. I'd be sometimes picking an older person in a conversation whenever they ask me, how are you doing? And I just jokingly say, yes, I'm going through a lot. And then they'd say, how and then they try to invalidate you from going through a lot, but they forget that you're also human and you are allowed to go through a lot. So right now, what the groove culture has got my youth on a chokehold so strong because of things like youth unemployment. I mean, guys, I can't tell you guys how many graduates universities produce every single year, and some of them, or 50% or 70% or 60% of them, end up staying home after that. So it's things like that. Number two, they groove because of poverty. They escape from those kind of things. They can't afford even the basic necessities. So what other better way is better than to just dance it away, even though it won't go away the next day, but just that temporary escape, and that just to feel that euphoria, and feel happy just a tiny bit. The third is teenage pregnancy, but those ones are self-inflicted, honestly. Those ones are self-inflicted, because when we were paying attention to life orientation in high school, they closed their ears. They closed their ears. But unfortunately, there's another reason why I can say my youth is so attached to this groove culture so bad. And then the fourth one, it's just family dynamics. I could say relationships, but I don't think we're that old enough to drink excessively because of relationships. And then other miscellaneous factors include your peer pressure, obviously, so a village girl arrives to the big cities with the big lights, and then she's easily influenced by the girls that are already used to that lifestyle, and she ends up falling into that kind of habits. Oh well. And then but otherwise, if you can compare the reasons why my youth goes to groove every weekend versus the reasons why the older youth, or the adults of today used to go to groove, they're very different. But then this is just me trying to show you guys that as much as valid both sides are, okusalayo, the older community shouldn't have any business blaming us and saying we are such generation and this and that. It really icks me. It gives me an ick, because they are the ones who are supposed to lead by example. If we then start saying that you guys should have made sure that poverty is no longer a thing, you guys should have made sure that after apartheid you went to school, obviously they'd feel offended. Because serious, if a 1K was to tell me that was to say bad things about my peers and say you guys vele ninja because and says why you guys are so rebellious, you guys act like this, act like that, I would ask them, say, maybe if you had made sure that your children don't have to suffer, if you had made sure that you went to school after you got freedom, maybe half of the youth wouldn't be going to groove every single weekend as much. Because the truth is, it is. But then I don't want to go there because I can't cry over spilled milk. I'm that kind of person who just looks at a situation as it is now than to try and go back and try to play the blame game. However, it is important to highlight these things so that we can see the full bigger picture of these things. So now the full point now is to say, guys, to all my peers, if you are my peer, if you're in the 20s, 30s, let's work hard. Let's work so much hard for our children so that we don't have to be the next generation of adults who just go to groove just for an escape. I want us to be the next generation of adults who go to such places just to enjoy the moment, just to see their favorite artists, not to go and try and drown their sorrows, because truly speaking, that never really works. You drink today, you get drunk 5 hours, your body then shuts down, and then you sleep for 18 hours, and then tomorrow, the next day, you still have your problems. Nothing's fixed. So let's be that generation that really works on their problems, because honestly speaking, we have a lot of chance. We have more opportunities. We have a chance to go to school. We have a chance to make things right. We have a chance to break tons of generational curses. So let's do right by ourselves, because our children will thank us later. You don't want to find yourself, or you don't want to find your children complaining about you tomorrow somewhere online. So take the right decisions today so that your children don't have to complain about you when they grow up. Take the right decisions today so that your children don't have to go no contact on you because of how toxic you've been to them, because you couldn't gather your life together in time. Okay, so let's do that. Let's set that standard. Let's increase the standard, because right now the bar is very low. The bar is very low. There's tons of work to be done. There's tons of curses to be broken. Wabo. We can. So really, we have no business doing this every weekend. Like I said, I don't have a problem, but make sure that when you do these things, when you go to groove, or you go to party, or you go wherever it is that you don't go because you want to escape. You go because you want to enjoy. You go because you want to relax. Because these places are meant for those kind of things. They're not meant for you to go there and vomit out all your troubles. That's why you find people there, they are so aggressive. There's always fights, because when you're drunk, when you're tipsy, your brain removes the restrictions to a lot of things that you hold inside yourself, even if they're bad. Wabo. So when you're drunk, it's easy for someone to make you angry, and that's why a man is just an inch away from jail. I think this was said by the legendary actor Tsepo Maseko on the King David Studio podcast. I just forgot which episode it was and the timestamp, but he said a man is just an inch away to going to jail, and I couldn't agree with him more, because you find men like these who are just there to drink out their troubles. And obviously their troubles, maybe they're making them angry, because you never know what they're going through. They're making them angry or they're making them sad. And so when you, maybe let's say you bump into them by mistake, and and then their drink falls off. Now they wanna, so no, let's not be that kind of a generation, guys. Let's be the generation that really goes to groove for the vibes. Just goes to groove either for the vibes, to network, and to enjoy. You got it? Yeah, I'm glad you guys got it. I know you guys got it, because I've said a mouthful here. So yeah, that's the first part of this podcast. Now, let me take a breather for our next topic. Well, our next topic, it's directly from the one that we're from, which is basically just about stimulation. And this is I'm not sure if I should say it's a topic, but it's a bit of a complaint that I personally have, because I don't know if it's just me, but everywhere we go nowadays, whether you're in a taxi, whether you're in a mall, everywhere you go, there's always stimulation. Like, it's as if now every direction that we turn to, there's always some kind of stimulus, that doesn't want to let our brain rest, like just peace and quietness, and I think this is why this is why we have such an overstimulated generation that really doesn't care much about things. Really, because everywhere you go, let me make a full day example. You wake up, alarm. That's stimulation, by the way. Stimulation, basically, it's anything that gets your brain excited, gets your brain turned on, basically. It's like a switch on button for your brain to release chemicals, your feel-good chemicals like your dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. But serotonin, oxytocin are the healthiest stimulus that your brain can release. So we're not going to count that in this conversation. What I want us to focus on is dopamine, because most of these stimulations target this one. Dopamine, we get it from music, watching movies, watching content, even you watching me. If you enjoy me doing this, your brain is probably releasing dopamine at the moment. So let's take a full day like this. You wake up. Chances are most of you guys wake up with alarms, and the alarms are very loud. That's stimulation. That's a switch on button for your brain. Alarms usually target the nervous system, because it violently wakes up the nervous system. That's stimulation number one. You get ready, you shower, you wear your clothes. Okay, cool. Chances are most of you guys have these things. You wear these things whenever you go to work or whenever you're going. I also wear them too. So after you've prepared yourself for the day, you put these things on, and then you get out of the house. You go to the taxi. As soon as you arrive, as soon as you climb into the taxi driver, chances are he's playing music or he's playing radio. That's stimulation again. So you see, you started stimulating yourself the moment you woke up. Even when you were walking to the taxi rank, you stimulating yourself with these big headphones. When you get into the taxi, you probably stop wearing those headphones, and out of respect, you just want to greet people. The people you're sitting next to. Hi, good morning, how are you? And then as soon as you take them off, the driver is playing some music or radio. That's another stimulation. You arrive at wherever you go to, whether you're going to school or whether you're going to work. But let's choose work. Let's choose work because this is the lives of most people. You arrive at work. Chances are, wherever you work, the people you work with, there's one who loves using music as an energy booster so that they can get things done. And so you get there. After you get out of the taxi that was playing radio or music, you get there, you arrive at the workplace, and the worker or your employee or your colleague is probably playing music or radio, but one of the two. Do you see your brain is not even getting enough time to get a breather? It jumps onto another stimulation. Because there's a saying in my language, the ears don't have a closing lid, so it's impossible to try and avoid these kind of stimulations. Fine, you can say, but no, if my worker plays music and, maybe I'm not feeling like music, I'm just going to put these things on. But Oksala, you're putting these things on and it's still stimulation. Do you guys see where I'm going? Fine, 8 hours pass during the day. I can reveal the minimum hours that I spent in the system, in this capitalist system at work is usually 7 to 8 hours. So now imagine you have 7 to 8 hours of music or either radio play while you're busy doing your own things. And then it's time to knock off. As soon as you knock off, you are tired. You're already tired probably from the stimulation that you've been accumulating the entire day. But guess what? You're still going to encounter even more stimulation because the taxi you're about to get into also might be playing music or radio. Or let's say maybe you want to do some grocery shopping after work. The store that you're going to go to is probably playing some music. And stores are very strategic. Stores are very strategic. They play slow ambient music so that you don't feel like you're in a rush to go anywhere. That's why women are usually the ones who fall prey to this because they end up doing window shopping. They end up scrolling through things. And when they think that they're doing it out of themselves, but sometimes it's the influence of the music. The music is slowly getting into your subconscious to relax it so that you don't feel like you're in a rush to buy things and just go home. So you end up window shopping. Let's say you window shop maximum for 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Still stimulation. And then you buy your things, you get out of the shop, you go into the taxi is playing music and radio. You climb out of the taxi, maybe the walk from the taxi rank to your house is 10 minutes. So you habitually put these things on just so that you can, that's still stimulation. And then you eventually get to your house or your room or wherever you're staying. And if you're staying with people, you probably maybe find, for example, let's say you're staying with your parents. Maybe daddy likes playing radio or mommy likes chilling, playing her vintage music. Still, that's another stimulation. Or I even forgot this one. And this one aches me the most. Or when you're in the taxi, people are playing content. They're on these social media platforms, and the video and the volume is 100% max. Yo, guys, do you know how that annoying it is? Like, I don't know why people in taxis don't have taxi etiquette, because you have no business playing a video at high volume without headsets on. Because that's inconsiderate. You're a very inconsiderate human being. If you are someone who does this, I just want you to know that you're a very inconsiderate human being, because not everybody wants to hear that video. So if you want to play something loud, rather use earphones if you're in the midst of people, because it's really annoying, guys. Sometimes we don't feel like listening to anything. We just want silence. But then you just come. Play the loudest video. Mind you, it's 7 a.m. in the morning. But Yeah, you see, that's extra stimulation on top. So imagine now you're in a taxi, the taxi driver is playing a radio, and then you're also dealing with this person who's also playing music or a video at a loud volume. Abo. So that's just a full day of how much we are stimulated. And tell me if that's not overstimulation, because it is. Hmm? That is overstimulation, because an entire day, and mind you, that's only one day. Now imagine that same routine of stimulation 5 days a week. I get we are focusing on people who are going to work. So that same amount of stimulation 5 days a week, 21 days a month. That's how much stimulus per year. And then you wonder why people nowadays are so insensitive. You wonder why people nowadays don't react like before, because nowadays the news could be reporting something very dangerous happening around, and people will just be so relaxed. The problem, listen, it's that stimulus that you guys keep feeding yourselves, that other people keep feeding us, because like I said, the ears don't have a lid, so you can't control the stimulus you receive in public spaces. Wabo. So we are really an overstimulated generation of people, and that's why we now have things like brain rot. That's why most people cannot even watch a video over 5 minutes, or not, 5 minutes is even a lot, even 1 or 2 minutes. It's because of all of those mini stimuluses. And you may think that those things are not affecting you. Trust me, they are. But then you can't see, but the difference is that you won't see the effect at the same time. The effect, you'll only be able to see it gradually over time. All of a sudden, you no longer enjoy movies. That's because you're overstimulated. All of a sudden, you just want everything to be explained to you in under 1 minute. That's overstimulation. So, if you can just learn to try and curb as much stimulus that you as possible, at least try focusing on the stimulus you can control. So that, because your brain really needs to catch a break, guys. Sometimes you just need to. Sometimes you know what I personally do. If I feel overstimulated, or if I feel like my brain needs a break, I take a walk without my phone and without my earphones. Obviously, I take a walk where it's safe, because, it doesn't make sense for me to not walk without my smartphone where I'm unsafe. So I just take a walk. It can be a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, but it really helps me. It helps me so much to bring my brain back to normal stimulation. Or you just bath, take a shower, a very strong shower. And I know you guys are overstimulating yourself because you also have a tendency of bathing with music. You guys should stop that, But who I am to make decisions for you. But I generally advise you guys to stop doing that, because that also contributes to this. So what I would do, I would just bath with no music, take a walk with no cell phone, or no music, because that way, like, it really helps me, guys. It really helps me. Or sometimes when I'm going to school in the morning, I just weigh these things here. I don't let them play. I've even made a rule that I only look at my phone 1 hour after I woke up. This means that after I bathed, after I done all of those things, that's when I can start looking at my phone. Because it's also hurting your eyes, the fact that you wake up to your phone. That's why many people nowadays are wearing glasses. You may think that it's peer pressure. It's not. Myopia are growing. It's now starting to grow because everybody looks at their phone the moment they wake up. And the crazy part is they look at it while it's 100% bright. So that's what I wanted to pick you guys' brain on. Let me know if what I'm saying really relates to you, and you also understand what I'm saying in the comment section, of course. So let's engage. But really, guys, try to reduce as much stimulus as you can, because it's very crucial for your brain's health. That it's very crucial. That's why people, like I'm saying, they feel numb to everything. They're numb to everything. That's why people can easily be as evil as possible without even feeling any type of guilt, because they're so overstimulated that they can't even feel the guilt and the shame of what they're doing. Wabo. So yeah, that's what you guys, those were the topics for today. I can see it's getting late. Brightness is no longer brightening. The day is now starting to fall. The sun is now beginning to set. So thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. I really appreciate it. I love you guys so much. And I'll see you guys on episode 4. So for now, take care. And I love you all. And God is the King. Goodbye. Woo! We did a 40 minutes today.